Hey guys, Maria Menounos here for AfterBuzz TV's After Show for Feud Season 1, Episode 3, entitled Mommie Dearest. Stay tuned. Here we come.
Tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Guys, we are so excited. Feud Episode 3 was epic.
Everything.
My mama said.
I think this montage rates
Mama
up there with
said
some of the Breaking
there'd
Bad
be
montages. I thought this montage was incredible to this song.
Oh my God, guys! I'm Maria Menounos, and I'm joined with my Feud friends.
Justin Sylvester at The Lady Sitter.
Fern Ronay at Fern Ronay.
Keven Undergaro at The Tomorrow Show.
Technically, he's my fiance now, my friend. Guys, this episode was amazing. It was everything we had been waiting for. Where do we even start? I mean,
the birth of Mommie Dearest.
Mommie Dearest, the name of the episode.
They went there.
They went there. You know what I love about the whole situation is that in this whole, this whole episode, you kind of see the backgrounds and how they were raised, how they became the women they are. It's a flashback, and they get really vulnerable with the audience and with each other. And I think that's such a great moment for this whole series because you get to see them.
I love when they talk about their childhoods because I always want to know people's childhoods. It makes so much sense about the person they are.
Well,
It rounds them out,
Well, because you're just a grown-up version of that kid. You're just an older version of the kid. That's exactly who we are. We're products of our environment. And you see that in this episode with both of them. Their childhoods really formed who they were. And we can get into that a little bit deeper, of course. But, Joan really transferred her childhood anger from her mom to Christina, as you could see, and like we said, Mommie Dearest was born.
I was surprised that they went so on the nose with Mommie Dearest because Mommie Dearest, the movie, although is iconic and famous, if you do research on the film, and I know and it gets you upset when we say that. I'm sorry.
Don't come for Mommie Dearest.
I always qualify that I love it. I'm obsessed with it. And I think Faye Dunaway did a great job. What I was surprised as I did my research is how it got a Razzie Award, how it's thought of as cult and camp, how it's seen as a comedy now. I mean,
what?
Yeah, and Fern, you watched it this week.
We watched it last night, and there were times
Fern,
where I
will stab you.
I'm sorry, but there were times where I was cracking up. I told you this, and you agreed. You're like, yeah,
right.
Because there's times when the acting is so not subtle; it takes you out of it, and we were hysterical. There were parts where I made my husband rewind because I was laughing so hard, and then there were other times where you can see that Faye Dunaway has something within her that is this woman. And it's very real, so it was a little inconsistent, but there were some funny parts that were not intentionally funny.
It was just, I don't know, it's felt like the pendulum was shifting the other way, where people were starting to kind of ease up on Joan Crawford's legacy, and even look at the daughter and go, maybe that wasn't so nice, maybe that was a little too extreme, and I feel like that anyway. I don't know if that's how it was going, but it felt like there was more forgiveness over the years of the public image of Joan Crawford. And for Ryan to be like, no, Mommie Dearest, this is this is who she is. I thought it was cool. I thought it was brave of him to do that.
Yeah. You know what's also really cool is that she raised Christina like her mother raised her, and then she went back in with the twins and raised them like the nuns raised her.
Yeah.
It was like she kind of sort of not messed up with Christina, but she saw her mother in that way, and then she went back and raised the twins like she was raised by the nuns. And
to your point, when you see their room, there's all toys, and what we were told with Christina and Christopher's, they got nothing.
Nothing.
So
because I never got anything from my mother.
Yes. And it's so funny because she didn't want to show her lighter side in front of the twins. So when Mamacita gave her the card to sign, she was like, "No, I'm not sending flowers. We'll see after."
After her reviews.
Yeah. And then the girls went to the bathroom, and then she's like, "Okay, give me the card. I didn't want them to see me, be soft on her because I don't want them to think that I'll do that for them."
Get too comfortable.
I was going to ask you why.
Isn't that amazing?
I was going to ask you why.
But that's also what I remember writing notes, her upbringing was a direct reflection of who she became, right? So she was always craving that affection and that attention, which is why she really became a movie star and why she was, hopping into beds with guys at 11 years old.
Right.
Oh my God.
disturbing. Like,
Right?
that's child molestation. That's like not on her. This poor kid
And
is
she had
11 years
no
old.
problem with it.
Yeah, I feel
She
like that's
lured
her
him, she said.
I know,
But
but
she
I feel like
didn't
no
know.
11-year-old is responsible for that. That was her being taken advantage of. Even if she thought she was luring him, like, a proper adult would be like, you don't behave that way.
She wanted to
had
have
no
control even over the
parenting.
story now. She's
Yes,
like, I
exactly.
did it. No
Guys,
one took advantage of
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
The contrast. Betty Davis says it very quickly in this, but Betty had said in many interviews that she did not have sex till she was 26 or 27.
27 it
Yeah.
was.
And
No, 27 is when she first became active, and it was another 2 years
25
after that.
she became active, and then
She got the
27
tingle.
right.
She got
Yeah.
the tingle, yeah.
So, guys, an 11, one at the other one side of the table loses the virginity at 11, the other one at 27.
and Betty's face was like,
Right? But now we know in the first 2 episodes, she uses sex as a way to manipulate men.
Mm-hmm.
But now we know that she learned it when she was 11. And the reason why she didn't think anything was wrong with it, because that's all she knew. She learned it at such a young age.
no, not only that, she was desperate to leave the convent. Right? Isn't that what she said? She was desperate to leave the convent, and this was kind of a way to get out of there.
Like, her home life was horrible, the convent was horrible, so
Now
she
was
could
able to
take
run away
off
with
and
this
go to
guy.
Hollywood.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Who was her mother's husband or boyfriend? I can't
No,
remember
I think
now.
he eventually
Second,
left.
it was a second husband.
Husband. So
Yes.
they
He
were
eventually was
married.
out of the
So at
picture.
11, she sleeps with her mom's husband. But then you also see how the convent really shaped her, right? So it taught her the discipline.
Discipline, cleanliness, order.
Yeah.
But
Which
also
I'm like, I
resentfulness.
like that.
Because
Yeah.
the other girls there were other girls at this. It was kind of like a Miss Hannigan, where she was like the poor girl who had to take care of all of them, and they could just be there. So she was also resentful of other girls who had things handed to them.
Yeah.
Which is why.
Clearly. Good point.
That is so insane. And by the way, I just want to point out that if I was Christina Crawford, I'd be so motherfucking pissed that I had to put up with all that shit.
And then the twins
And
come
the
along.
twins come along
yeah.
and take all the money.
And then dot
I
the
know.
$2 million she has left in her estate go to the twins.
Go to the twins.
Wow.
And what's her line to Christopher in the will? It says, for reasons well aware to them, or something
Well
like
known
that.
to them.
They're getting no money.
Yeah.
They get nothing for reasons well aware to them, or something to that.
From the grave, she was still Mommie
I think she
Dearest.
contested the
Yes.
will, though. I think
What's
she did
that?
eventually get something.
No.
She
So
contested it, yeah.
Christina and Christopher sue the Crawford estate, saying that the mother was not in sound mind, that the twins manipulated the mother into redoing the will, and she redid the will in 76. She dies in 77. So they win the suit, and of the $2 million estate, and with an estate, you have to understand there's cash assets, but then there's the name.
Yeah.
Okay, so that when you own the name, you in the image, you can still do stuff like that. Like Lucille Ball's daughter, Lucy Arnaz, manages Lucille Ball's name. The Sinatra kids manages Sinatra name. So there's still a lot of money involved in that. What she received after the case was $55,000 that she split with Christopher.
After the lawyers.
Yes.
No,
No, not even after lawyers. That's what they were awarded.
Oh,
Before the lawyers.
$55,000.
Oh my lord.
So she left with $5,000 and a toothpick.
The key line, I thought, first of all,
There were a lot of key lines in this,
I'm
episode,
saying the
by
scene.
the
No,
way.
I'm talking about the scene at drinks with Bette and Joan. This is a huge scene, you guys.
Wait, can we talk
Huge.
about what led to that scene, though?
Sure.
Because what led to that scene was her conversation with the director about BD being in the movie. And so Betty is manipulating Joan into trying to have a soft landing with her, in a sense. So she's
Yeah.
like, let me ask you something,
You have 2 well-trained Pomeranians.
2 well-trained Pomeranians. How'd you do that? How did you do that? And so they have this whole conversation, and then she's like, we should have drinks. Crawford, let's do drinks.
Right?
She's wearing her down.
Yeah, and Joan
Right.
almost in a way is like, really? You want to have drinks with me? I have no friends. I said it out loud. I go, she has no friends. She has no life.
might
Of
as
course
well
she's
go.
going to go.
It's so crazy. But also at that drinks and dinner, I think what you're getting to is, what I saw is, you keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. And when they start sharing intimate things about their past and how they grew up, it was them being vulnerable only to get inside the other one's mind, I feel. But you also have to, you build people up, you build that trust up so you can tear it down at some point. And I think it's gonna come down hard.
I think that's
Life.
what Betty was doing, but I think Joan really softened her. You can't hate someone whose story you know, and it's
Yes,
so true.
yes.
As she got to know her, she couldn't give it to Hedda Hopper. She couldn't go
but
after
this is
her.
gonna come back, and I'm telling you, in episodes to come, she's gonna use that information that Joan was a hoe
yeah.
at 11. She's gonna use it.
Oh yeah,
Well,
yeah.
at some
It's often
point,
Joan,
it's
but not
like,
Betty,
yeah, there's you know, not many people are gonna just sit and take it. So at some point, she's gonna fight back.
By the way, the scene with the daughter with BD really happened, and so I did deep diving with the twins in BD. BD Hyman, there's an interview we were talking about. She's with a Philadelphia news station promoting her book about her mother.
Spill the tea, Kevin.
Well, she was, so BD is, I think we talked about this on the episode. She goes on to write a book, My Mother's Keeper, and basically just trashes her mother. That is done in a way that probably the only worse way is Mommie Dearest, but pretty bad. And when she's out promoting the book, somehow the story comes up about her meeting Joan Crawford. And she was talking to the twins, and she said the twins just had on overalls, and they were dressed like little girls still, and both their heads were down, and they were scared and all that stuff. Well, BD was talking to them or whatever, and Joan saw it and came over and said, "You do not talk to my daughters," and blah, blah, blah.
So it had nothing to do with a cigarette.
Well, we don't know that. This is BD's version of the story.
Got it.
What we know is BD was talking to them, and the mother Joan Crawford felt it was a bad influence and came in and stopped it and said, "Get away from my kids," basically in a polite Joan Crawford kind of way. And then
I did it in a kind way.
And then BD went on to explain what the plastic and all the furniture was. Now, by the way, this is an interview from 30 years ago. She said because she was a huge germaphobe. Huge germaphobe.
And that was the Tea with Kevin, brought to you by Lipton.
That was kind of them.
And what about Betty saying at that drinks, "My mom was my only female friend."
I know.
And then Joan said,
You're lucky.
"You're lucky," and that's
Because
to
she
your
never
point,
even had one.
To your point, Maria, she had no friends.
Yeah. We talked about this in the other episodes too. They were so similar. They were so similar. They had complete parallel lives in so many ways.
Do you think there's anyone out there that is Team Joan over Team Betty, or most people Team Betty?
I oscillate because sometimes I feel like Joan is the weaker character and she's kind of the underdog at times. So I find myself rooting for her, and then I flip because I think
outside of
she's-
Feud,
has a
I'm saying the
personality.
real life people.
Oh, I think people in that age, I think it was like a firm
In that
hand.
age, but I'm saying today.
Oh, today, I don't know. I think, Betty Davis, Joan Crawford's known for, Mommie Dearest, being a strict mother. So I think people in her generation admired her because she did keep a swift household. Now, Betty Davis is known for, she's got Betty Davis eyes.
Right.
That's all anyone knows about Betty Davis in this generation. So, of course, they're going to love Betty Davis.
Yeah,
I
well,
feel like,
Madonna
yeah.
sang about her in Vogue too.
Yeah, so there you go.
Team Betty Davis.
Everybody's Team Betty.
Well, I mean, in terms of versus one another. I mean, in terms of a pick between them as human beings. Are there people who go, listen, I get it. I get where Joan came from, and I get the struggle. I F Betty for what she did to Joan. Or are there people who are, what I believe is that I just think Betty was the cooler of the two, and I think that Joan was just really crazy.
I just love a bitch. I love a bitch, and I think a lot of people like a bitch. Like people
my
like.
So there's
Yes.
people who would say, Joan is right
for
over Betty.
sure.
Okay, good.
People like a bitch.
But
right.
Betty was such a bitch too.
But Betty was a smart bitch.
Right.
Yeah.
Joan was a
can't even. I'm
messy.
like-
Joan was a messy in your face bitch, and would throw shade at you. Betty would throw some shade at you, and then you would walk out the room and be like, "Did she
Wait,
just
did
throw
she
shade?
just-
Did that bitch just throw shade at
Yeah.
me?" Joan would give you the shade, and then give you an umbrella to help you. That bitch was good.
Right, right,
She
right.
was good.
I think.
She
my
was
God.
the shadiest bitch alive. I love her.
I feel like Joan is the vulnerable one and Betty is the stronger one, right? Joan had no confidence. Betty had all the confidence. Betty didn't have confidence in in sex simple status way, like I'm sexy and that kind of thing, like Joan did. But she was a strong, confident woman, and Joan wasn't as much. Joan performed as if she was like she made sure she pretended to have command in the world and wherever she was, on set, off set, but she didn't have any. She was very vulnerable and very alone.
Yeah. And you know what? Everyone loves a struggle. And Joan started from the bottom. Now we're here.
Now we hear.
Joan was that bitch. So people can relate to that because not everyone
Excuse me.
had everything handed
Right.
to them. And she is very open about that and was very vocal about that throughout her career, that she built this for herself. So I think a lot of people would be on Joan Crawford's side.
See, I don't
Okay,
know.
good to know.
I don't know. we'll take it to a Twitter poll tonight, and we'll see what everybody has to say.
Good idea.
How about Betty teaching BD to act? Juxtaposition, like the juxtaposition of Betty teaching BD and then her with Victor Bono. And so she's seeing unbelievable talent in one hand and then completely the opposite with her daughter, and just the frustration on her face was hilarious.
Can we just still go back and give some more love to Victor Bono before we even get there? Like, this guy was such a phenomenal actor, and for him to blow away, but at first she was so judgmental, but watching how assertive he was, and just in the scene, like, he just was such a natural.
Well, she said she likes talent.
Yes.
She said, "Oh, I love talent."
Because it takes talent to know talent, and that's what she respects.
Is that why you like me so much?
Yeah.
Love myself. I love myself. The thing I
Absolutely,
like
sir.
about her is there's no beating around the bush.
No bullshit.
No bullshit. She literally told the director, bill her as B.D. Merrill. She should
Which
not
they
have my
did.
last name. And they did. And it's funny how I was wondering, I was like, why didn't she use her mother's last name? Because she was not allowed to.
Why, though? Let's talk about why.
Because she
She's
was
going to
terrible.
tarnish her reputation.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
thought, too.
Yeah.
It was a bad reflection on the Bette Davis brand.
But she handled it differently than I feel like if that were Joan's daughter, Joan would have beat her down, and I feel like Betty could have been so much harsher, and she handled it as well as Betty could
even
handle
looking
it.
at the interviews of Betty you guys check it out. You want to see Bette Davis, This Is Your Life in the 60s, late 60s, and then all the other interviews she does even before her death. She's a cool chick.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
let me just say this. It's obvious that she puts her work over her family.
Yes.
Because
Oh,
when
yeah.
Beatty goes down and says, I want to run lines, she's like, oh, I'm already doing that with this guy.
Meanwhile, she was just hanging and shooting the shit.
Mm-hmm.
They hadn't even
So
gotten
what was
to
that
Yeah.
about? What was that about?
She likes talent. So she...
Why was she going to waste her time with BD, who the next morning was not going to get great overnight? She's like, I'm not wasting my time on her. She's lame. She's going to be lame tomorrow. I got to work with this guy.
So Bette Davis.
And her scenes don't
It's
make...
true.
Yeah.
See, but I see as a director, right? And Betty had a director's eye. No, you can have that breakthrough with an actor or an actress.
She
I know
tried.
myself.
Did you not see her like this in the scene? Like, I want to die.
But I think because I think she was too. Anyway,
And
I
Victor's
think I
part is
could have gotten a
bigger.
better. I think I could have gotten a better performance.
Listen,
out of her.
I remember in the movie you pointed out, and you know me, I'm a stickler for performances, and even when we're on a set, I fight to get the performance out of somebody, and I really will to the very bitter end. However, you really hated her performance in Whatever Happens to Baby
Yeah,
Jane.
when we watched
He
whatever happened,
hated it.
when we watched Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, I couldn't believe, like, who is this terrible actress
Came for you.
next door?
Yeah.
I couldn't, for the next door neighbor's daughter, I could not believe in such a well-made film. I was like, and then I didn't know, and then when I found out it was the daughter, I goes, no,
Makes sense. But it didn't bother me. She just seemed like a dopey daughter. Like, she just didn't bother me. She was inconsequential to the movie.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And-
Which is why I think Betty spent
She
more time
was.
with Victor, because his
No,
role
wait,
is
wait,
important,
wait.
and she has
Exactly.
scenes with
Wait,
him.
that's
She doesn't have
different
scenes with the
from-
daughter.
Exactly.
That's different from being a bad actress, inconsequential movie. I didn't think she didn't. It didn't bother me like, I'll shut the movie off. It's
No,
one of
I
my
know.
favorite films. I just was like, that's weird that we have such fine actors, and who's this? Fern, had you noticed her acting?
I thought it was awkward. I was like, who's this weirdo? Where's this movie going? And then we didn't see her again, so it didn't. I didn't even really remember it. And there's no substantive material I can find about how she got the role. Just something very small in Mrs. Bates' biography that she wrote years later. Her daughter was supposed to have that role, and she went through wardrobe. And then later she got a call from the director being like, well, Bette Davis's daughter is actually going to take that over. So I think her daughter was, I think that story was true. Her daughter was very pretty. She went into wardrobe. They saw her, and they were like, get her out of here. And they replaced her with BD.
And who's Mrs. Bates?
She was Lila Quartermain on General Hospital, which I didn't
No
watch General
way,
Hospital.
Mrs.
but-
Quartermain?
Yes, Anna Lee.
Mrs.
Yeah.
Quartermain
That's
was
crazy.
amazing.
It was her
Yeah, it was
daughter.
supposed to be her daughter to play the Liza
Whoa.
Bates.
Well, soap opera star to movie star.
That's crazy.
Who's got more power?
By the way,
Kidding.
did you notice that, like, Betty thought BD's performance was shit.
Yeah.
But the minute Hedda said it, it was done.
Well, yeah.
Like, don't come for my
That's
kid,
a
and
true
you better
mother,
not
yeah.
print that. Like, that's the whole thing. But I love that Hedda, I hope I'm not jumping ahead, when Hedda says, I know, what we think of Joan, trying to connect and turn the tables around.
But
Yeah.
Betty's too smart for her.
Betty was too smart for her. She couldn't use that on her. She could use it on Joan, but she couldn't use it on
Yeah.
Bette Davis.
But even Joan, I really loved in this episode how Joan had a heart after that.
Yeah, back up and go when she's doing
Yeah.
her workout. By the way, shout out to the little speaker phone. This is 1961, people. Isn't that cool? That for the super rich people would have a
you're right.
speakerphone, and
yeah.
so I
Good
love
like
that.
technology, yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that. But you know, she's doing a little Jane Fonda workout, smoking like a chimney and drinking like a fish. But she's doing her little thing, and in that moment, she was feeling soft for Bette Davis, like you said. You were saying she was getting emotional.
Yeah.
You know,
And
she
I
was
also
feeling
liked
bad.
in that drinks where Betty said, you know, we don't have to be friends. We can be allies. You
Yeah.
know? And it's funny because they both needed a friend,
Yeah, they both had no friends.
you know?
It's so true.
But no
But-
one's
but-
gonna say I'm lonely yet. You know, like you know what I
Right.
mean? Like
Right.
they could have been such great friends and such great allies throughout the history of their careers.
Yeah.
Right.
But no one will ever admit that they need someone else.
Yeah.
Well,
and
those
soon,
two won't, yeah.
And soon after that, the montage scenes of them acting on the set and really just tormenting each other. You know, that scene where Betty had to carry Joan. It can't be easy to have to pull her off a bed, lift her, move her, shift her, and all that.
I mean, they're both 60-year-old women, and you know, and they don't take care of themselves. So
And
imagine
they're
carrying
being
that dead weight.
Terrible.
pounds.
And then we see that she's wearing a weighted belt. You little shit. And then the other one's Betty's kicking her in the head, and they're literally torturing each other.
Yeah.
Let go of the rope, ladies. Let go of the rope. Just
So insane.
do your job. Like, unreal.
Unreal.
The argument about the Oscar in 1950, All About Eve. You know, she was like, I
yeah.
should have won it then, and I agree that she was far better than the person who did. Was it Joan Fontaine? I don't know who won it in 50, but, and this is getting off the subject, I'm sorry guys, but Gloria Swanson, I always felt should have won it actually for Sunset Boulevard.
Ooh,
over
that is
All
a
About
hard
Eve.
one. That is a tough one.
By the way, like when you look at the Oscars, there are often times where there's just so many good performances. It's really, really hard where you're like, God, it could have gone either way. And that was obviously a year where, I mean,
But
Sunset
you know what I
Boulevard
always,
was amazing.
Okay, so note to Oscar voters of today or any day, and write this down. Before you vote,
He's coming for
ask
them.
yourself if in 30 years this performance or this movie is still going to be talked about or matter. If so, vote.
That's a good
You don't
gauge.
go Shakespeare in Love. Go look at the movies that, Stephen, are you in the booth? Can you look up the movies that lost to Shakespeare in Love? Shakespeare in Love wins the
That
Oscar.
was Gwyneth Paltrow
Yeah.
and, okay, never saw
do
it.
not come for Goop.
I'm sorry.
Don't
I'm not,
come for
I'm
Goop.
not coming for Goop.
She is a friend of the show. I'm just throwing that out there.
Okay. Gwyneth's a great actress. What I'm saying is, we see some of these performances that are not memorable. Anyway, I
you
can
know
give
what?
several examples. So Gloria Swanson, I remember that role, and I remember Betty in All About Eve. I do not remember the other one, and that is because it's not significant.
Here's the jam. I understand where you're coming from, but you know what? People have to be crafty. If you see someone's going to be the front runner in Best Actress, you move your ass to Best Supporting Actress. That's what Viola Davis did this year, and
no
that's how she
way.
won. She moved herself to Best Supporting Actress.
How do you do that? I didn't even realize that was a thing when they were on set fighting about,
Billing?
Hedda's article and how you are, you're putting me in supporting and you're in lead. And she's like, well, I thought that you had agreed to this.
It's the way you position someone in
Yes.
billing. And
I
it's
thought it was quite
also-
collegiate of you.
Oh, no. You have to do it. A lot of actresses do it now. They put themselves in a supporting role to get the Oscar.
But
By
now
the way-
you're screwing over the supporting people.
No. It's all in the game. It's all in the game.
Kevin, can you read it from there?
No, I can't see it.
So, Best Picture, Shakespeare in Love, won against Elizabeth, Life is Beautiful, Saving
Life is
Private
Beautiful.
Ryan,
Listen to this. Go ahead.
Saving Private Ryan, The Thin Red Line, which I'm baffled.
There you
All
go.
those were
And
insane
no one
movies.
remembers or talks about Shakespeare in Love.
No,
So-
but Life is Beautiful.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
That
Of
was-
course, Life
that
is
was
Beautiful, Thin Red
Roberto,
Line, all of them. Keep going.
Benigni,
Saving
yeah.
Private Ryan.
No, not Saving Private Ryan.
Saving Private Ryan. No.
Was not that bomb.
Oh my god.
Such a good movie,
Great
Justin.
movie.
God.
Oh
Don't get
my-
muted. Don't get muted.
White man in the booth.
Don't get
Quiet.
muted. Oh, you're muted.
Straight white man.
Listen, we have to get back to Feud, people. We're digressing.
Okay, wait. I have to say one thing that I am obsessed with about this episode, and there was a big theme of youth. It started with, if you notice, when Joan goes home and there's no children, you know, when you hear when they hear the sound of young children, it reminds you that you're young.
Oh my God, yes.
But wait, yes, because you know what? When kids grow older and they're not home, that means you're old. Which is why she ran to the orphanage and tried to buy another baby. And then they tell her, you're too old. Crushed her.
Crushing.
Then she goes on set on the beach and she is like crushed from being let down about the kid, that she tries to make herself look younger and younger and younger. And she overhears the compliment that she keeps on getting 5 years younger.
And she's dying.
And she's dying
that.
and she loves it.
Who
But
wouldn't?
then Bette Davis gets the same compliment, and it's not about vanity, it's about her craft.
Which is her Achilles heel.
Which is her Achilles heel. So it's this big thing of youth.
Yeah.
That
Great
was a
catch.
It was such a big
Betty's
arc.
compliment for looking younger, but without makeup, it's her performance.
Well, also, think about it, guys. In that scene, she was just set free of the greatest burden that she had ever been carrying, right? She didn't do it. Now I'm free. And so now Betty's so good. I have the chills. She's so good at communicating that through her acting that she reverts and gets younger.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. And you know what's funny is in the scene where Mamacita, Joan, and the two twins were out for dinner, right? The bows. Why would they make such a big deal of the bows?
Because she wanted to keep the girls young.
Thank you.
She
I
wanted
wanted
to
to see if
keep
you
the
guys
girls
thought the same thing, because we knew, I don't know if we talked about this last time, but we knew a silent movie star, an old movie star, who used to keep her baby in a crib till the age of 13, so that when people came over, they could say, darling, have you seen the baby? Come over and see the baby.
So crazy.
13 in a crib, so she would feel like she still had a baby and she was still young. This was a big thing back then, which is why kudos to you for catching that whole youth message in this, because it was such an important thing back then.
But let me ask you a question. Did you, in the whole show, do you know where that bow is? It's on top of Bette Davis's head the whole movie.
Oh,
Oh my
Justin,
God!
you are so much better than us at this.
Nice.
You are
Holy
amazing.
shit.
Yes.
And if you watch the movie, she starts off, and then when she's like, you know, in the beginning, she's
When you
like,
watch Baby Jane.
And you watch Baby Jane, she's like fat and slobby, and she's running around, and she's cooking for her sister. It's when she gets in her manic state, and it starts to go downhill. She takes the bow off the doll and puts it on her head.
You're right.
And then she opens the mirror. She sees the mirror, and she sees herself in it. And it goes. Her mind goes back to that young stage before she had all this.
That little girl performing.
When she was the biggest star.
Honey.
It's that bow, girl. I'm gonna wear that bow on my head my whole life.
Drop the mic, Justin.
You don't
Drop
see the bow.
mic.
You do not see the bow, but it's there.
Wow. Great catch.
That's awesome.
I love it. I also loved when Betty was saying that the only real legacy is your kids. And I wonder how much she really believes that, because she did deny BD helping her, and she did deny her name too.
She also mimicked. She called the home for her mentally disabled child.
Yeah.
Yeah, who didn't want to talk to her because she probably hadn't talked to her ass in years. She's like, it's mommy. She's like, who, bitch?
Yeah.
Literally.
No, she was like, Mommy, why aren't you here? Why aren't you, why can't I see you?
Yeah, but you know what? She did mean it, because if you watch at the end, Beatty's like distraught over her performance, and she says, no, this was just your first film.
Yeah.
You'll get better. You know, she's now boosting her up because she now knows that is your legacy.
And I feel that that's accurate, because just again looking at all those old interviews, she seemed like a tough lady, but I don't know, seemed like a cool lady too, Bette Davis. Like, I don't
You
think
just
she
wanna
was
come-
heartless.
You just want to come for Crawford.
Yeah, unfortunately, I
Kevin,
do.
that was Coming with Kevin. Brought to you
But
by Food.
but like Fern said, it's so hard when you know their background and you know that
guess-
she got no love and no affection from her
know,
mom,
I-
and she just became a product of her environment, like
Absolutely.
we said.
The problem is, I guess, here's where it hits me as when I've directed before, is Betty's going to be tough, but she's going to be tough because she wants the best for the film, and that's the best actually for you as
Yeah.
a director. whereas Joan is gonna really want what's best for Joan, and that's
Yes.
a nightmare.
A nightmare.
And I was like cringing at I have to go back to my dressing room. I have to go back to
and
my.
she was lying to Hedda the whole time, saying it was Betty doing that.
And to give you guys some reference, this was a movie that had no money, no budget, and it was on a very tight schedule. Like 4 weeks they had to shoot this. So, and when you do a beach scene, you are fighting daylight. You literally only have a certain amount of
daylight hours.
to
Yeah.
shoot. And then those locations are rented or whatever.
And they cost a lot.
Only so many days, and so I was just like, come on, man.
I know.
Like that,
Yeah.
So anyway, that's why it hits me. That's why I'm Team Betty.
Yeah, because they
Yeah.
try to torture everybody. How about, can we move on to,
And it was nice what she did with the daughter, I thought.
yeah,
Do you think it was genuine with BD?
I do.
I think it was 100% genuine. I thought it was her moment to have that realization that, she had her mother, didn't have her mother, and BD needed hers.
Well, Betty was
agree.
close with her mom, but her
Now,
mom passed.
yeah.
Yeah, and she's like, now this is all I have. My legacy is my children.
Yeah.
And I think Betty was tough, but I don't think she had a personality disorder. I think Joan had an undiagnosed personality
For
disorder.
sure.
Agreed.
So
Good point.
so she
Why
behaved
is the
differently.
left side of this room coming for Joan?
You know what? I kind of get it, because I respect people who are hardworking and who are for the best for the project. And I think that Joan started out that way maybe, and like really cared about this project, but then she was just like, no, now my job is to torture everybody for torturing me, even though
Yeah.
they weren't torturing her. So it was just bad. It just doesn't work. So Joan is alone. She has this amazing scene with Mamacita, who, you'd like to think Mamacita cares, but I don't think she cares. She was like, okay.
No, I think she does.
No, but she was so cold.
Because
and-
that's who Mamacita is.
I know.
She's actually German.
She's
yeah.
German.
Oh, poor German people. Guys.
She just
Wait,
called
wait.
her Mamacita.
Isn't that interesting? She's German, but she uses a Latin.
Like Joan had just come back from Rio at the
Mamacita,
time
little-
she got Mamacita, and she heard everyone saying like "Sita this, Sita
Stop
that,"
it.
and
Is
she's
that
like,
true?
I'm just gonna call you Mamacita. Yeah,
You looked this up?
it's in Joan Crawford's biography.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
So
Posted
wait,
on Twitter.
wait.
what happens to Mamacita? I wanted
She
to
ends
know.
up going back to Germany in like the early 70s, so she wasn't with her when she died. But
I love that Fern's like, yeah, she just got back from Rio right when she got Mamacita, like she acquired her ass off of eBay or something. Did she rent her? Was she a rental?
She got her from the neighbor.
Right when she got her, she had just got back from Rio. I'm like, bitch, is she in a car or a person?
She was shipped from Amazon.
That's so funny. But it's crazy. So she's alone, and then she goes to adopt again, and she gets denied because she's too
Too old.
old.
And he had no problem saying
She's
that.
too
Right.
old to make movies. She's too old to have a partner. She's too old for everything, to even have a kid. Mm-hmm. And she's got the means and everything. I felt so bad for her in that moment.
I did too, but I also feel like a lot of people think of that time in their life as like, now I can relax and do the things I always wanted to do. I can travel. I can
She's
read all the
too
books.
relaxed. She has nothing to do.
She doesn't like people who can't be alone. Don't love themselves, and she doesn't have her own interests, her own love
torture.
of things that she likes to do. She needs to find
Yeah,
herself.
she needs other toys to play with, yeah, because
People who
it's
can't be
torture.
alone just get bored easily. Sorry, I love myself. I'm just bored.
I'm dying. Fern is
I
Fern.
don't know. My husband
But it-
travels a lot. I'm like, that's fine. I have
You're
like a
fine.
million books to read and documentaries to watch. Like, get out of here.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Kevin gets so excited when I leave. He's like, oh my God,
Same thing.
the kids and I are going to have a
Documentaries,
party.
books.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
No,
like,
it's
we're going
all
to get
crazy.
donuts and we're going to watch documentaries. I'm home. I don't know how to, I won't turn a TV on by myself. It just will never happen. It is the rarest thing to see me turn on a TV.
Really?
I just keep working and just buzzing around the house. And
By the way, if I was not here right now, I'd be in my pajamas watching Lifetime,
Yeah.
because that's what I do on Sundays.
I love.
Take out
Nice.
and Element, because they play all the old Tori Spelling and Tiffany Amber Thiessen movies. Not Without My Daughter, 16 and Pregnant. And I literally sit there, eat my Thai, and I don't move.
oh my God.
Phone
like
off.
heaven.
Phone off.
That sounds awesome.
So funny.
But it's one thing when you're bored, but then I think
She was very unhappy.
it's torture
Yeah.
to be alone.
Yeah.
To be alone with her thoughts. Think about being in that
Yes.
frame.
Yeah.
trying to
No,
come
for
at her again.
sure, for
like
sure.
it must be
Totally.
horrible.
The other thing I wanted to mention is, so they have to reshoot the beach scene because of Joan coming out looking younger and younger and younger.
Oh, but what about the
And-
scene between Richard Atkins and Jack Warner?
Oh, yeah. The screening of the
Yeah.
movie and the ending, and he hated it.
He was like, "No, we agreed on the ending, but she keeps getting younger looking, and
It's
he's
absurd.
Like, and then, but the ending was like, it's just a B movie anyway."
Oh my
Yeah.
God, like what motivation is that to finish?
That was
he
just
always thought that?
shade.
No, you got to break a bitch down. That was his thing. His thing was controlling people by
Oh.
breaking them down, which is why he got Joan Crawford in the first place,
Yeah.
to break Betty down.
So, do you think he really believed it was a B movie?
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, they all did, yes.
Yeah, I think he thought they were old hags, and that Joe, is that his name? Joe, the director?
Richard Atkins.
Robert
No,
Aldrich.
Robert Aldrich.
That Robert
Aldrich.
was,
Oh
excuse
my
me,
God,
Robert was just like a struggling, director,
Yeah.
and that it was a B movie. It wasn't anyone big. It wasn't a big budget. So he really believed that.
Okay,
Yeah.
so he wasn't just saying it to break him down. He really believed it.
Yeah.
But you don't tell somebody that it's a B movie,
Which is
even if it's a B
nasty.
movie. You just keep it.
Well,
oh, it's
I
gonna
think
be a
it was
hit.
just him being
Yeah.
nasty. I don't think he
Nasty,
did it
Hollywood
intentionally. I
rude.
think it was just being Hollywood rude. But when we have to redo the scenes, like when you watch Jessica Lange, first of all, because we're so obsessed with Joan Crawford and Bette Davis, we forget to talk about the actresses sometimes. Jessica Lange nails Joan Crawford on that beach.
100.
Like, I didn't even know I wasn't watching Joan Crawford.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Like, nails her.
Nailed it. But do you imagine that? Okay, so Joan Crawford goes to get the children from the orphanage, and they tell her, no, you're too old. She sits on the beach for that retake later, and she goes, I'm dying. And then you see the one tear come down her eyes, because that's her cue that she's getting old. Like, it's art
that she
imitating life.
is dying.
And-
That she is dying.
And let me add to it, when Betty looks at her and says, we could have been friends, it meant
Yes. No,
Both
guys, Eve,
things.
keep
Yeah.
going, keep going. I crippled myself.
Yeah.
yes.
I drove at you, but you got out of the way because Betty's smart enough to get out of the way. She knows what Hedda Hopper's doing.
Yeah.
But you got out of the way, and I crippled myself attacking you.
Yeah.
And in the end of the day,
Chills.
we could have been
Been friends.
friends.
Yeah.
We wasted it all, and it moves Betty. It moves the Bette Davis in the scene. You see
Yeah.
her. It's not even her shot, and she's moved because she hears it.
It
Like
was just all
Right?
parallel stuff. It was
Oh my
crazy.
God.
When she said we could have been friends, I'm like, oh my God.
Right?
How much that must have meant in that moment. Everything that they were speaking in that scene.
I wanted to crush you, but you saw the car coming.
Yeah, look, this is what she's been doing with Hedda the whole time.
You saw it coming. You saw.
And she didn't let Hedda, and Hedda didn't let her turn her in that moment when she came to her house and she's like, you know, how we feel about Joan. No, she saw that car coming. She's like, you're not taking me
No,
down.
no.
Crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I love how y'all hate Joan Crawford. That's crazy over there. I'm feeling some animosity from that side of the room.
You people stay over there. Did we leave anything out? Because I think there's nothing more than that last scene and those last
Well,
lines.
I think
to
again,
really...
I want to go back to my boy Victor Buono and his going in the red light district or whatever. Like,
Did you buy
and
the
Betty
rights
saves
to
them.
Victor Bruno's name?
you know what? I think I
Because you are
may.
pushing Victor
but
Bruno.
How great was that actor? Is that actor nailing him?
Yeah.
It's
right?
unbelievable.
He's nailing him, but then also, no, let's think about Betty going to bail him out.
Yeah, with the
And
amazing line, too.
I
He
mean,
was researching a project.
Yes.
How dare you?
How do you not be Team Betty?
I'm Team Betty.
You know what I mean? Like, she
Sorry,
goes
Jess.
there and she I know she defends his talent.
Sorry,
She
Boo.
defends his choices. I don't know. I just thought that was amazing, and we just have to give it a shout out. That,
You know what? You know what?
And he's like, I couldn't call
Yes.
my mother, so I called you.
You can all be Team Betty. But let's not forget that Betty would not be in this movie
Without Joan.
without Joan.
Yes.
Right.
Joan's
No,
another
no,
leg
I
work.
And
agree.
she wouldn't have been in Feud, and it wouldn't have been this whole thing without Joan. Joan started it,
She did. She grabbed the book, and I love her for that.
right?
I do.
But
Well, no, it's not really about. I love them. I do love them both. I'm just saying, like, Betty is to me is a really cool lady. I mean, even seeing the interviews with her, it's like that's someone I would have loved to have hung out with. There's another great interview with Joan she did in the late 60s with an Englishman. It's black and white. Have you seen that one?
No.
That's out there on YouTube as well. And just see the difference of somebody who's
Joan's interview. I thought
Joan's
Betty.
interview.
Oh, she's so affected in that
she's so
interview.
affected and restrained and then you just see Betty from like the early 60s till 87 and wow, just what a just a cool lady. But I love the fact that she went and took up for this guy.
Yeah. I love that, like, you know, you see it in pop culture and in Hollywood. When you talk about people, sometimes you can't help but talk about a certain thing. You know, you talk about Michael Jackson and you talk about the skin color, you talk about Kim, you talk about the booty, you talk about, you know, all these people, and there's something that's attached to them. And for Joan Crawford's life, it's always going to be Mommie Dearest.
Always. And this is why, I mean, we were talking before the show, Fern and I, about Bette writing her book about Betty and Christina. And, you know, it's a short-term payoff. You know, she really destroyed her legacy, Joan. That's all we remember.
Oh, yeah.
But, you know, they're now notorious themselves. They're both hiding out. It's not like they're celebrated. In fact, it's quite the contrary. People really don't like Bette
Well,
for
because,
that, and they don't like
you know,
Christina for that.
it's like some things just need to be kept, you know, behind closed doors.
Well, as I said, you could write, both of them could have written biopics. And what you do is you discuss the good and the bad.
Yeah.
And that's it. But when you say Mommie Dearest or My Mother's Keeper, you're just coming right out there to say, my mother sucks, and this is all the reasons why.
Yeah.
You know?
I feel like Bette said she wrote good things, but nobody talks about them.
Well, here's the thing. When you, again, she did write some good things, and in the interview,
People only
she talks
remember
about,
the bad, though, always,
guys,
in
the
every
title. No, it's the title. My Mother's Keeper, and she ends it with a letter to the mother, like, you know, saying all sorts of bad things. So you begin it and end it that way. It doesn't matter if you put some good in there.
Well, Bette wanted to make $1.
But she still would have made $1. It's Bette Davis, who's world famous. And as I told you guys, would you buy a book off a biographer of Bette Davis, or would you buy a book off a daughter who knew and lived with her? You're going to buy it off the daughter. So she didn't have to go there. She still would have sold books.
Yeah.
And she got disinherited. So, like,
She
play your
lost
cards right
everything.
until
I mean, like,
after
it was,
she dies.
and again, it's just like Feud, and it's just like that cliche about war. Nobody wins.
Yeah, but you know what? There's many biographies about many people. But guess who's I'm picking up first? Kid Kelly.
Who?
You gonna read a Kid Kelly before you read anything else.
Kitty Kelly.
Kitty Kelly, you know Kitty Kelly.
Yes.
But you know you're gonna pick up a Kitty Kelly before you're gonna pick up somebody else.
I've read them all, but then I have to read another one to like wash it down because hers are like a little.
Well, again,
like, where
I think
is she getting these sources?
Well, again,
so
but they're very sugar water. I think Kitty Kelly. They come out in the moment. They're like, ooh.
Okay.
But they're not.
But let me tell you what you do.
It's not My Week with Marilyn.
Yeah.
Like a book that you get that lives 40 years and you go, you know what? I got to make a movie about this. This is so well written. This is so well done.
Well, let me give you the tea, Kevin.
Please.
For everyone watching, this is how you buy a Kid Kelly book. You never buy the first edition. You wait for the reprint where people challenge her, and then she puts the evidence in the book.
Very
and she gives you an update like, oh, by the way,
I've never read one.
4 years ago, Oprah tried to sue my ass, but I won, and here's why. Because I got her daddy on the phone. Good night, Kitty Kelly. I mean, it right there.
Wow. All right.
And that was Tea with the Queen.
I think now I'm going to read. I don't have time, you guys. I keep running. I don't have time.
Second edition.
I have to.
No, but don't even read it. Let me tell you what you do.
What?
You get that goddamn audiobook.
Love audio.
And you listen to that motherfucker on the treadmill.
How long does it take to listen to an audiobook?
I always put an hour in. About 4. I would say you can finish it in a week.
Okay.
Oh my Lord, you guys are hilarious. Guys, that is our show for Feud.
guys, I
Season
love
1,
this.
Episode 3. I can't wait for
Why does it
Episode
have
4.
to end? What about the production design?
do
Can
we
we
have
talk
any-
about the greens and yellows?
Do
Can
we have
talk
any
about
predictions?
the contrast in those houses?
Any predictions for next week?
AfterBuzz TV predictions.
I think it's going to now start with the release, the billing, and the Oscar buzz. That's going to be...
it's gonna
that's
get
gonna
ugly.
be...
Yeah.
That's going to get ugly.
I think the Oscar buzz is like, this is war. That's,
I can't
yep.
wait.
And speaking about youth, you know, what about and them at the end of their careers? You guys moved it all about them having to pack up their own little
Yes.
crappy dressing rooms.
Yeah.
And that last shot of the two of them looking at each other, the Coke machine behind Betty, which by the
Yes.
way did she orchestrate the Coke
Yes,
machines
that was
coming
part
in?
of her screw with
Okay,
Joan.
so then it's like that, and then to see Joan walk by the Pepsi machine and the Coke machine and put her cigarette out as she walks by, it's like it's on.
Oh my God,
And-
so much
And
energy
just so you know,
in all
there's
the
going
wrong
to be
places.
so much more because you have Oscars, but
Yeah.
then you have another movie that they're going to make together, or not. Just wait and see.
But by the way, you know who's about to show up and fuck some shit up. It's motherfucking Christina. I can smell it.
Oh, yeah.
She is coming. Christina's coming!
Christina!
Christina!
Guys.
Can we? I'm trying to find BD and I'm trying to find Christina. BD runs some Christian ministry, she's born again Christian, and Christina's pretty much off. Seems like a little.
You should
bit
do a
off the
podcast.
grid.
She does like a
Finding BD.
sales and marketing in a hotel in Nevada.
I think Christina's like literally practicing for a play that Joan is like secretly like funding from the grave, but it's never actually going to come out. So she's like practicing and practicing for this play that's never going to open.
Man. All right, guys. At Maria Menounos.
At the Lady Sitter.
At Fern Ronay.
At Undergaro.
We'll be back next week for episode 4. Can't wait. I know you guys can't wait either. If you love our after show, we have after shows for almost every TV show out there. Go to AfterBuzzTV.com to find your favorite show, or just download us on iTunes. Any other reminders before we go?
I think if you like Bar Rescue, I do the AfterBuzz TV Bar Rescue after show. Fern, what about you?
I do
One of
the
our favorite
Royals,
shows.
The Housewives. I do Divorce on HBO, which was so good.
And we're just exclusive to the Feud, so we're just here for the Feud, guys. Thanks for joining us, and till next week.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Keven Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Bye. See you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.